Black Wall Street, Part 1. I remember back in the days, and I'll call the days from 87 to 93. So I was banging in the streets on the notorious 15th Avenue and other places, but I want to talk about 15th Avenue in specific. I remember Murph and Duke and Bob and Nene and Cathead and Bouncer and then them brothers on the other end by Miracles, you know. And back in those days, man, we used to ride our Dunks and Trues and Bowls and ride with our girl down the street and going to movies and the last thing we wanted was violence. And we went to all measures that we didn't have to war with each other back in those days. In those days, money was plentiful. Everybody in their crews was making money. Uncle Al was jamming on the Ab, and Pure Funk would come out, and things was just really, really fun and beautiful and bubbly. And then some of us that was making that money, we started indulging in business endeavors. You know, some of us did beauty parlors and car washes, and, you know, me, myself, you know, I opened up a record company. And Lil Duke, he opened up his record company. And we started doing things in the community. Some of us started buying properties, and some of us started making investments and doing all kind of things. We kind of stopped buying guns and jewelry and cars, and, you know, we were looking for something that we could get into in the business sector to make an exit plan to get out that game. And you started seeing it, and society started seeing it. And so some wise, wickedly group of people said that we got to deal with them wisely, or else they might join on to a force of people that know their value and come against us because they get money now, they getting smart now. So they devised a plan, just like they always do. They always plan their stuff 20 years in advance. And then they play out the history that they write for us. And we were getting that money, and we were, you know, if any crews had beef, especially when we was in a close environment, we talked about it. We band together whenever a foreign person came in and tried to set up where we set up. Me and Murph and all our workers, we'll get together, about 50 of us, and we'll go march down on them. Say, bruh, you can't set up around here. And when they saw that army, you know, they dipped. But guess what? It was another people that seen that army too. And there was another people that said, man, them young black dudes there, they shouldn't have that much power. So they wrote their 20-year plan out. And then they let us know that even in the educational system, that they would wickedly wise craft a curricula that was the basis from the school to prison pipeline. So when our brothers and sisters was bringing home A's in school, they were just on the honor roll on their way to prison according to that curriculum that they gave them. And I remember listening to a tape of a Jewish man, and I'm gonna find it. And if anybody know this tape, please send it to me. So this Jewish man, he said, man, I'm gonna tell y'all something. And I could tell you now because it's public records. He said, man, let me tell you. The curricula that y'all got in y'all school We wrote that for y'all. We designed that for you all. And it's designed to send you to prison. We created them schools for y'all. But guess what? You would never see our children going to school with y'all, learning that type of curriculum that y'all learn. We don't teach our children that. Because we designed the curriculum for y'all. When you think you were learning reading, writing, and arithmetic, man, you was on your way to prison and you didn't even know it. This is how wickedly these scientists are. So it's probably with the same scientists that seen little armies like that growing up in our pockets of our sectors of our community, and they said, man, we gonna deal with them. And so for those of us, you know, if you from Miami, Florida, then you know. If you're not from Miami, Florida, then you don't know. But there was once upon a time you had Sonny and Sweet, you had Murph, you had Bob, you had Cool, you had Nene and Cathead, you had Willie K, you had, on that other end, you had Ernest McKay, you had Coop down there on that end down there, and we were making a lot of money on 15th Avenue with little to no violence to each other. And so in a period of time, all them names, Convertible Burke, Coop, Sonny and Sweet, Nene and Cathead, Big Willie, and all of us that were making money on 15th Avenue, the feds came down on us and wiped us out of that area. And 15th Avenue was a Black Wall Street before, right? But anyway, they wiped all us out. Because in their writing, they seen a violent generation come up. And then you got your violent, viciously violent, so-called violent group of brothers came up after us. It's get down or lay down. Is y'all done had enough money up here, man. It's our time now. Don't let us come back up here and you be up here. And then they tell them, if I come back and you up here, nigga, you out of here. This our spot. And then they'll ride around the shortest block and come back. Didn't I tell y'all, get against the wall and gun our brothers and sisters down like a dog in the streets. And before the blood is dry. Base butter since we open. And they went down from spot to spot to spot, making examples out of people and filling up the graveyards. While all of that was a design of the wickedly wise, because they know we were waking up. And one thing about us, see, is a certain segment of people, you better go to college or you ain't gonna make it. But man, if they just leave us alone in them projects where we grow up at, if they just leave us alone, we'll come up on our own. And I'm finna show you how they see us. I'm gonna tell you why they lock leaders like me up. Because they know that we are scientists. We are self-taught scientists. And then you might say, how prove it? And I shall. Anytime that we could take a substance, a powdery substance, change that powdery substance into a liquid form. We change forms from a powder to a liquid, and then we make that liquid, let that liquid harden, and we call it cocaine base. And it all depends on the type of cocaine that we have. We know if we need to cool it off of hot water or cold water. Whether we need to use ammonia to cook it in or regular baking soda and water. We know if it was oil based, if it's a kind of cocaine that you could use for powder cocaine, or if it's cocaine based, if it's only for crack cocaine. So we were self-made, self-taught scientists. They saw that. We were dealing in logistics. Not only that we were taking product from block to block, we started taking it from city to city and state to state. That's logistics. And then we had the packaging and the delivery system down pat. And then we had the different places, the different labs that we went to do our chemistry and do our packaging and do our marketing. And they seen that and say, we need to deal with them wisely, right? And the difference between the wickedly wise in the north from the wickedly wise in the south, see, them ones in the north, they gonna look at a young Sean Carter. And then they gonna look at his chemistry skills, the way he move, his science, the way he do things. He look at it and they say, hey, we gonna get him and we gonna enhance that. Hence, you have Jay-Z that's a billionaire. Hence, you got the movie industry up there. And then they got brothers that can play different movies. So they bring them in. And they make them rich and they give them millions, and the millions that they give them is fractions of what they give them. But at least they see greatness in our brother. Now let's move down south. Down here in Miami, Florida is full of strip clubs, guns, and drug spots. And the people that make it down here, I'm talking about in the streets, they only want you to be workers. So we don't have industry down here. We don't have those Jews down here. We don't have people down here that can see brilliant minds like Big Money Sonny and say, man, let me take him because I can see something in him, and then I can pour into him, and I can make him rich, and I can make him famous. And I can sit him before the people and let them see a person in a place, in a position that they can strive for, that they would never ever get to that spot unless some Jewish person come and get behind them and exploit the greatness that they learned in their heart from them experiences living in the ghetto. So they wiped all the non-violent drug dealers out. How do you know that we were non-violent? Because you see, some of us, after doing 20 and 30 years in prison, we are able to get out because we was non-violent. While our brothers and our sisters that killed people way back then, they gonna be in prison for life. They've been in life for 30 and 40 years. And so what they thought and what their science was and is, we gonna lock up this generation of people and the smart ones from amongst them. And we gonna make sure that we lock them up from 20 to 30 years. And once we lock them up from 20 to 30 years, when they get out, it's gonna be a gap between them and the younger generation. So even though some of y'all or some of them are gonna go into the prison house and become lawyers and doctors and scientists and some of this on a very high level, once they get back out and have a desire to raise their people up in the community, the gap between the old smart brothers that can raise up the young brothers and the young brothers in the street, the gap gonna be so far that they think we not gonna be able to reach our youngsters. While at the same time we were locked up, they were pouring into them. You're a deadbeat dad. You'll go to prison dad. Your dad ain't here because he's in prison. Ain't no dads out here because they were stupid selling drugs. Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And so they was building up a division between the young and the old so that when we do get out of prison, that they wouldn't listen to their young uncles and their people that want to come back out and help to save a community that they helped to destroy. And the only way that we're going to save that community is we got to reach our young people that's spiraling out of control, out of the mindset of those that already knew how this thing was going to pan out. wickedly wise. And so we were gonna make 15th Avenue a Black Wall Street because some of us starting to buy that property up. And when they seen that going on, and while they was breeding division into the woman, I'm gonna give you a Section 8. I'm gonna let you pay $2 a month or a year. And I don't want no dude in this house. I don't want to catch his clothes in there. I don't want him spending overnight because they deadbeat dads. And if I catch him in here, I'm going to put you out. So we got a segment of women that's submissive with the same plan by the wicked enemy, but with another avenue to kill, to separate the male and the female from each other and make them enemies of one another. Y'all better listen to this, scientists. And while they was doing that, they was making the division between the young generation and the older heads, and the children against the father, and the women against the father. Hence, slavery is in full effect. Hence, you got a segment of people that don't know who and whose they are. So they wiped out the business and the thinkers in our community that were using selling drugs as a vehicle to get capital to build Black Wall Street. And they raised up a young ruffian type, Saul type generation that they know y'all Saul. They understand scripture. And so our brothers, we start killing each other and murdering each other. And now the same generation that they made the murder, they in prison with the people family that they murdered. Bruh, this is a science. That's why I tell y'all, man. Y'all talk to our young people as if they the enemy. They not the enemy. They just under a wicked scheme and a spell from the enemy that's stronger than the hate that we have for one another. Hey, this Sunny Days 305 Degrees podcast. This is Black Wall Street Part 1. Subscribe to my YouTube page at Albert Sonny Camel. Hit the like button and share every time a video come on, because I'm telling you, your brother is the messenger and a champion in my city, Miami, Florida. By God's permission, I'ma be that once Saul, not on a violent tip, but God done transformed my life into the Paul for our community. Peace.